YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. I hope y'all enjoyed yesterday's video. Breaking down the difference between Angler of the Year and the Bassmaster Classic and what it would mean to me and maybe what it would mean to my son or my wife. It's kind of a hard topic to talk about because, if you've never won one, like I have never won one, I hope one day I get the opportunity to win one because that means I've made the elites and kind of everything works out, but it's just kind of how it goes. But today's topic of discussion is definitely one that I wanted and I've been wanting to talk about for a while, and it's talking about fishing shallow but with really big baits. This is one that is going to help you catch bigger fish, bigger than average, and I'm not going to say the biggest fish in the lake. It probably will, but it's definitely catching larger than average fish than what you're probably catching right now. I hope y'all enjoy this, but real quick, if you haven't subbed yet to this channel, go ahead and drop down the bottom right hand corner, hit that sub button, and drop a comment below. What is your favorite big bait to catch a big bass? I'd love to know what it is. We all have our different big baits. I tend to use a lot of different ones, but I travel all over the country. So maybe what's your favorite big bait for the lake that you like to fish? Drop that comment below, and let's get right into this video. Alright guys, today we're going to talk about fishing shallow water but with really big baits. And I'm not talking like giant glide baits or swim baits or anything like that. I'm talking oversized squarebill crankbaits. When I first saw these oversized squarebills, I was really kind of intimidated. I wasn't really sure how to fish them, why I should fish them, or even where to fish them. And even to this day, I'm learning every time I go out there newer places to catch bass on these things. Now, over time, we have a tendency to, kind of downsize our baits. We're always like, man, that bait's too big. I can throw this bait and get more bites. You're probably right, but you absolutely, a lot of times, are handicapping the size of fish that you can catch. If you look at the average size of, let's just say, for instance, a bluegill. A bluegill anywhere is between 3-4 inches long. A good bluegill, at least. I know there's some 2 inchers and 2.5 inchers and things like that. But for the most part, a bluegill's oversized. A good, nice bluegill's 3.5 inches to 4 inches long. If you look at the size of this crankbait, it's really no different than a nice size bluegill. It's about 3.5 inches long. This is the 8.0. So this is the largest squarebill that Strike King makes. So really, is it too big to catch fish? Absolutely not. If the fish are feeding on bluegill or even larger shad, like if you're in a lake that has big gizzard shad, it's a perfect bait for that situation. So many times, we throw really, really small baits, and they kind of get lost in the water. And I know that sounds kind of crazy because a fish has such good eyesight, but when you're talking about a bass that's eating, let's say, even a 3-inch shad, if you're throwing a bait that's this big, and he's eating a bait that's this big, he might go up there and eat that 1-inch shad, but a 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 pounder, if he sees that 1-inch shad goes by, he's like, nah, I'm not going to waste my energy. But if he sees that 3-inch shad go by, he might go smoking. So you really got to pay attention to what your surroundings are. I remember when, let's just say a 2.5 like this one was the biggest squarebill I would throw. And I even felt like that was oversized in a lot of situations. And now I throw an 8.0, which is this one here. And you can definitely tell the size difference in the squarebills. Do I throw an 8.0 every time I go out there? No. But right now is a great time to tie one on. And not just 8.0. There's a lot of different situations. That's what we're going to walk through today, is a couple different situations that I use these oversized crankbaits to my advantage. So, for instance, if I'm fishing grass, one of my favorite ways to catch fish is on an oversized crankbait. And that oversized crankbait's a hybrid hunter. This body size is about the same size as a 6XD. So, it's a big body, big crankbait. But the difference is if you take a squarebill crankbait, a squarebill crankbait dives like this. It has this angle. The hybrid hunter only has a very small drop in angle and actually a run more parallel to the water. What this is going to allow you to do is not have that steep dive angle and actually keep that bait kind of above the grass. It's a great way, especially as that grass grows taller and you can't fish a squarebill crankbait efficiently. It gives you that ability to catch more fish on that big hybrid hunter. And I've had 40, 50, 60 fish days on the hybrid hunter in a lot of different colors. Now, we're not all in the situation where we have grass or even a place that you even know grass exists, but we do have standing timber in a lot of situations. Standing timber is extremely unique, and I could go on for days about how to fish standing timber. I grew up fishing standing timber. But one thing that you can clue in on, so I always pay attention to the size of the tree. So if I'm dealing with a lake that has a ton of standing timber, I want to find the biggest tree I can on a point, on the side of a flat, you know, in a really unique place. And that's a lot of times where those biggest fish are going to hang. And that's where a square bill comes into play big time. Because a square bill is designed to deflect. So I'm going to throw that square bill right up next or past the big piece of standing timber that's in 4, 5, 6 foot of water. And I'm going to reel it right next to that thing. And I want to make sure my line rubs up against that timber, because I know if that line rubs up against that timber, that square bill is going to hit it and deflect off. And that's going to cause that reaction strike. But right now, in the post spawn, that is a phenomenal way to catch fish, especially really big post spawners that are just now coming off the beds. These fish absolutely are some of the biggest ones you're going to catch all year. They're starting to cycle off those beds, and they're moving out to those points. And they're going to use those as little transition places to go out to these deeper haunts, these deeper weed beds, deeper timber lines, rock piles, whatever it may be. But you can ambush them on those really secondary places where they're starting to funnel out. And those really big trees are one of those places. Now, those are two situations. The third situation is rock. You know, they can be in a lot of different places when it comes to rock. They could be on points. They could be on channel swings. They could be on steep banks, flat banks. There's a lot of different situations that fish can be on. I'll just name one of my favorite ones, and that is going to be points. Points are such a huge deal in the post spawn, especially what we're dealing with now. In this situation, it can kind of be twofold. If you're on a lake that doesn't have very much rock, you want to find those little isolated places that do have rock. And it could be just down a stretch of bank or on a point, a little rough spot on a point. And that's where really matching the size of your bait to what you really think they're fishing, or the fish are eating. About the smallest I go if I'm going mag crankbait is a 4.0. A 4.0 is absolutely one of those baits this time of year that I have tied on every single day that I go out there. I love a 4.0. It is a fish catching machine. It's, you know, slightly larger than a 2.5, but it just gets you those better than average fish. I will fish this thing all over the place, especially when the shad are spawning like they are right now. Those shadow spawn on points, those rock points, those rough rock points, and stuff like that. It's a great way to catch really big ones. And the other option is an 8.0. So if I know they're eating big gizzards, I'm going 8.0. Or if I know I'm on a place that has a lot of 4 to 7, 8, 9 pound bass, I'm going 8.0. No questions asked. Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, those kind of places. You know, especially right now in Rayburn, guys, like, dude, it's flooded like crazy out there. You can take this 8.0 and crank it around those bushes, and you will catch a giant. Like, no questions asked. Like, if you do it enough and you deflect this thing off enough bushes, you're going to catch you a gigantic bass. So, but back to rocks, though. I'm looking for, if I'm on a lake that doesn't have very many rocks, I'm looking at isolated stuff. Now, if I'm on a lake that has a ton of rocks, and I mean like a bunch of them, I'm looking for little bitty differences. Like, so I'll go to a point. Does this point have big rock or little rock? Does it have softball size rock or basketball size rock? Does it have these big boulder piles on the end of it? Those little differences are going to be the difference between where the fish are going to hold. So if you just go to a point and there's like no difference and it's just a bare point, 9 times out of 10 your biggest fish aren't going to hold there. Your biggest fish want to feel comfortable. They want to be around stuff. They want to be around cover. These are all situations where the 8.0, the 4.0 are really going to play into your hand. So, can you catch them on the hybrid hunter around that? Yeah, you can. I know Cassadine catches them all over the place on that thing. Okay? He literally throws it everywhere he goes. But in the situation of rock and standing timber, I really like the 4.0 and 8.0. I think they get you larger than average fish. Don't be intimidated by these crankbait, guys. I know it's kind of intimidating, but don't be. The gear I use for the 4.0, 8.0, and the hybrid hunter is all the same. I use the Ledge Series Mag crankbait rod. It's a 711. I think it's a medium heavy or heavy. I want something that has a little bit of tip, but a lot of backbone. Because when you're talking these big square bills, whenever you go to set the hook, it's not about as much about the diameter of the hook, I mean, which does play, but it's the amount of force that this, you know, that this crankbait is going through the water. So when you set the hook, it's just sluggish going through the water. So if you're using too limber of a rod, you'll never get the hook set whatsoever. So you'll never get the hook set whatsoever whenever you're dragging this crankbait through the water. And as far as reel goes, I go a 7.5 to 1 gear ratio. You want something like a Pro TI, something that has a little bit of line capacity. You can throw that 20-pound, 25-pound fluorocarbon on it. I throw big line on it. I mean, because I'm expecting to catch really big fish. Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Throwing these Magnum crankbaits are definitely a great way to catch big fish. I hope y'all enjoy it. I hope y'all enjoy this video. If you haven't yet, hit that sub button. Comment below, what is your favorite big bait for big fish in the post pond? Guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and I'll see you on the next video.